What's up, everyone? Kevin Leslie, and welcome back to another solo episode of the At 2000 Training Podcast. Can you believe it? I think there were 25, 26 episodes in, and we're having a blast. We're just getting started. And we're going to talk about approachability of coaches. And I love this topic. I think it's a very good one, and it's one that's actually very relevant now because I'm getting a lot of those conversations from a lot of the athletes I work with regarding how do I approach my coach regarding this issue or that issue or whatever it may be. And it's a fun topic to dive into because I definitely have my own personal thoughts on it. I know a lot of coaches. I've been around for a little bit now. And it's something that I'm really passionate about because, again, I'm a big believer in approachability and being a mentor, a guide, a resource for athletes in, many ways, no matter what, because that's the role that you signed up for. So we're going to dive into that a little bit today, and we're going to have some fun with that. But before we get to that, if you are a fan of the show, if you're a listener and you want to continue to support what we're doing here, the number one way that you can, to me at this stage, is just share this podcast with your network, share this with teammates, coaches, friends who may get some value out of it. We have some amazing guests coming up, and I'm just trying to continue to grow the show in whatever way we can. And the number one way to do that today is just share an episode, right? Share it with someone, and also follow the show if you don't, because that'd be really helpful as well. Other than that, let's dive in. Approachability of a coach. And in my opinion, let's take it from the athlete standpoint. It is never a bad thing to ask your coach for feedback. And the reason I say it like that, a lot of athletes get so caught up in this idea of they almost feel intimidated. Not intimidated, maybe that's not the right way to say it, but they have this fear of going to the coach and asking for feedback or asking for support in whatever capacity that may come from, right? Whether it's selection or developing their fitness, whatever it may be, they have this anxiety about going and approaching their coach in fear that maybe they say the wrong thing or that their coach might quote unquote, bite their head off, right? Because they're, saying something that the coach disagrees with. And in my personal opinion, if a coach has a problem with you asking for feedback, they should reevaluate whether coaching is the right role or side gig for them. If coaches have an issue with you coming to them and requesting some kind of feedback or advice or clarity or whatever it may be, again, like I'm a big believer in, as coaches, our job is to be there for athletes and to be able to answer their questions, to be able to provide clarity, to be able to be a mentor and a guide for them through this pursuit of rowing and beyond, right? Or whatever capacity that may be in. So that's the first thing, right? I think every coach, you get into this job or you get into this role, whether it's a side gig or your actual true profession, you're there to support your athletes, right? And that underlying message always should be very clear. So that's the first piece. With that being said, like that's their role, right? They're there to help you. Now, here's the fun part. Because even though that is the coach's role to help support you through your rowing mission and help you get to your goals and help get the team to their goals, they are also human. Coaches are human, all of them, myself included. Every coach out there, right? There's a human element, or they are human, right? They're physically beings, right? And why that is very, very important is because if you're an athlete and you're trying to go to a coach and ask for feedback, when you ask is very important. How you ask is very important, and what you ask is very important, right? When you're asking for feedback. And what I mean by that is because coaches are human, because coaches are people who may respond differently in different situations, for you as an athlete to best position yourself to get the information or the feedback that you desire, right? And not desire in the sense of like, hey, I got the answers that I wanted, but more importantly, you got genuine, true feedback from the coach related to the specific issue that you brought to their attention. in order for you to actually position yourself to get true feedback from that coach or true response, again, you have to think about how you ask, when you ask, and what you're asking for, right? And a couple of examples, right, is I like to think about it in terms of what you're asking. And when you think about it, there's a position or an outcome based ask, and then there's a feedback based ask. And what do I mean by that? And there's a lot of different synonyms that we could throw in for those words, but here's an example, right? Because what you're trying to think about is, as coaches, we can get defensive. We can get caught off guard. We can have emotional responses to different questions that are asked to us or different whatever happens, right? It's just, again, it comes back to that human element. And if you're an athlete, one of the things that's very where you can set yourself up for success is here's the difference, right? Let me start with that. An outcome or position based request is something like, what did I write down here, right? Hey coach, my 2K is X faster than so and so, insert name here. Why aren't I in the varsity? If you just blatantly ask a coach that, they may get a little bit defensive, right? They may get a little bit of, hey, why are you questioning how I made the boat? Why are you questioning how I made the lineup? That's an ask, right? That position or outcome based request might catch them off guard, where now you're starting to, again, coaches have pride in what they do, right? They set these lineups based off their best intuition of what they feel like is going to make the boat the best it can be, right? Or hopefully that's their intention. If you're asking a very direct question about that, right? Sorry, if you're asking a very direct question about that without providing context, again, they may get a little bit defensive about something like that. A feedback driven request, right, or ask is more, hey coach, I'm noticing that I'm moving around a lot in the lineups. I've been in a different boat every single day. I'm looking for a couple of technical cues that you're seeing on the water that I can focus on for the next couple practices to be able to feel a little bit more comfortable in one position in the boat, right? That's just an example, right? But you're asking for feedback related to you. You're not questioning your position in the boat to cause, like, any coach that's going to deny you feedback, again, that's when it comes back to what is their real role, right? A coach in that situation can say, hey, so and so, that's a great question. I've been noticing that you're a little bit late behind, everyone, you're sitting in 3C, you're a little bit late behind those on starboard side. You got to think about level hands and, catch timing, right? They can provide you with something that you can latch onto to help you move forward versus, again, the former, outcome or feedback, right? Or sorry, outcome or position based. Hey coach, why aren't I in the 1V? My 2K is way faster than this individual. Again, now you're just, can you get clarity, right? If the coach receives that message with a little bit of, where they kind of have time to respond to it, yeah, they can probably give you a really good answer, right? Hey, listen, your 2K may be really, the score might be better than these individuals, but how you approach it, right? Where you crash in the middle and then you bring it back at the end. Like, we need someone who shows a little bit more consistency throughout the full piece. And these athletes better demonstrate that, right? They could very well give that response. But if you approach them with just, why aren't I in the 1B? My 2K is faster than this individual, right? They can take defense to that, right? And that's just what you want to think about versus that feedback driven request. Hey, coach, what do I need to work on to better position myself for my next step forward, right? Be a little bit more direct and ask like you're trying to improve yourself, not like you're trying to thrust yourself into a better position in the boat because of this, or this, right? So again, that's just how you can kind of judge the emotional response of these coaches, where you can kind of set yourself up where maybe it's not, or we can set yourself up for a response that might help better serve you. What's up, everyone? Kevin Leslie, and quick interruption to the podcast. If you're a high school rower who aspires to take that next step and row at the college level, and you're trying to figure out what is the best path for me, how do I find the best fit academically, athletically, and personally, let's have a conversation about it. Let's set up a Zoom meeting where we can dive into, this is what I'm looking for in terms of schools, this is what I'm looking for in terms of rowing programs, and how do we build a plan that can best position you for long-term success. And this can take one of two routes. It can be specifically within recruiting, where we're creating a list of schools, and based off those schools, we're reaching out to coaches. Or you could come to me and say, hey, Kevin, I want to row at this level. I might not be there today, but I want to develop a path that can guide me in that direction and set me up where one day that could be a possibility. And we're going to have that conversation in our Zoom meeting. And right now, throughout the spring season, we're setting up free Zoom meetings for all the podcast listeners using the code SPRINGRACING24. So use that code, set up a meeting, and let's begin to initiate that conversation and get you moving in the right direction. So again, set up a Zoom meeting on my website, SPRINGRACING24, and let's begin to move you in that direction. Now back to the show. Peace. Now, the other piece that I really love diving into is when to approach a coach. When to approach a coach. And in my opinion, as humans, when you can take, on both sides, when you can take the emotion out of a situation, you can have a dialogue that offers a lot more clarity and reality to it, right? You're taking the emotion out of things, right? Especially after a poor practice. And what I mean by that is going to your coach right after you get off the water, when they were bugging you all day about catch timing, right? Your blade's late, your blade's late, your blade's late. Going straight to them and saying, when they're trying to worry about getting kids back home, getting equipment back into the boathouse safely, they might, again, that's another situation where they might take a little bit of defense to that. Versus, in my opinion, dedicate time to meet with the coach. Carve out a time, carve out a window to meet with your coach. What do I mean by that? Bad practice happens, your coach is calling you out, right? They're saying these different things on the water, right? And again, all things being equal in a perfect world, you can go to that coach right after practice and ask them, hey, what's going, or can I get a little bit of support in these technical issues that you were noticing on the water, right? In a perfect world, you can do that, right? But again, the human element of things. Go home, send them a text or an email. Just be like, hey, coach, I know that you were addressing my catch timing frequently throughout practice. I just wanted to see if you had a little bit of time before or after tomorrow's practice to talk about it so I can get a little more clarity on what I could do for the next row. You are sending an email or text, whatever their preferred method of communication is. You're giving them time to, number one, emotionally relax and get away from practice, but you're giving them some time to kind of reflect and be like, okay, I'm going to meet with so-and-so for 5 minutes before practice tomorrow to explain some of the issues that I was seeing in the boat as it pertains to that individual, right? That specific individual. You're giving them time to actually think about it and digest it, rather than going straight to them after practice when they have all these different things that they're thinking about. And now all of a sudden they are giving you an emotional response to that situation. Again, they're human, right? There's that human element where you are kind of taking them off guard, right? And asking a question that they might not have the right answer for you, and they might get a little bit defensive about how they respond to that. So again, go home, relax, eat dinner, send an email or text message saying, hey, coach, I noticed these things on the water. Just want to see if we could meet before or after practice, or even better, if they're staffed at the school, may I meet you during your office hours, if that's a thing in high school, right? Can I meet you during your office hours and talk a little bit about my technique to better prepare myself for the next row? Don't tell your entire life story in that message. That's very important. We are better, at least in my opinion. I like to hear it verbally, to be able to talk about it, to be able to read the language, to be able to read the emotion in that situation, right? So just give the bullet points, right? Keep it short, keep it concise, and just say, hey, coach, can I carve out a little bit of your time to meet before or after practice to talk about this issue, right? Or talk about this technical concern that you were addressing on the water, right? Keep it short, keep it concise, and see if you can get a little bit of their time at a stage when both of you have had time to think about it, right? And you're giving them enough information where they can prepare an answer for you, which I think is valuable too, right? You want to make sure that you're not catching them off guard in those meetings, right? Lastly, I know this one's lasting a little bit longer than what I wanted. Here's kind of my closing thoughts on approachability of coaches. And this is probably the most important piece. Again, it's very important, or coaches are there to support you. Coaches are there to help you. However, if you abuse it, eventually it's going to become white noise to them. Oh, so-and-so is just trying to figure out what happened at this practice, just like they have the last 7 practices, right? If you pull that card too frequently, eventually they're going to drown you out, right? If you cry wolf if you cry wolf so much, eventually they're no longer going to take these responses seriously. So that's where I challenge you to, whenever you're going to go down this path, think about the true why you want to meet with the coach and why you want to get clarity on your question, right? Or what you're looking for. Analyze and reflect on that true why. And if through that you feel like this is something I definitely want to get a little bit more understanding for, that's when you can reach out to the coach, right? That's when you go through those 2 areas that I just talked about, right? That's when you send that email or that text to see if you can set aside time to meet with them to talk about it at a time when they're both, or when you and them are able to think about it with a little bit less emotion and a little bit more clarity. So this one ran a little bit longer than I wanted, but hopefully, again, it's a topic that I'm truly passionate about. Again, I think as coaches, we have to have this underlying foundation of approachability from athletes, from parents, from anyone else, right? Like that's our job. Our job as communicators who can articulate a message that can hopefully help provide the right information or guide an athlete moving forward. So I don't shy away from approachability, and I hope most coaches out there don't. But again, there's a way that you want to approach it as an athlete to get the information that you so desire, or to get honest information from that coach without emotion interfering with their response, because they're all human, right? They're all human. So that's what you want to think about. So that's all I got. If this was helpful, again, share it with teammates, share it with your coaches, whatever it may be. Let's continue to build the show and provide good information for athletes and coaches out there. I'll talk to you soon. Good luck if you're racing this weekend. Have a great day. Peace.